Ring ring, ring ring, ring ring, ring ring.
Oh,
Yo, what's up?
ready?
Yes, sir, you're live, and today we will be casting the CPL Playoffs. And joining me today is Shugo, who also known as ProdosGG in the Twitch chat. He'll be able to keep an eye out for any questions you guys might have. And yeah, so introduce yourself briefly. I know you're coming back for your second broadcast with us. You were requested by popular demand, let's say. So anything you want to say to the public, now's the time.
Yeah, I think actually this is my third broadcast, right?
Oh, you're right.
I did some Protoss guide with
True.
you. I think that was the second one. But anyway,
Yeah.
yeah, I think everyone probably knows me by now. Sugo on IC Cup, um, and I got some words just before I joined the stream that I've been too nice on the previous streams, and I should probably be a little bit more cutthroat. So I think that's maybe what we can expect for today.
All right. I'm looking forward to it, and we are going to be a little bit more loose with it than in the previous broadcast because this is the playoffs. I feel like most of the learning has already been done over the course of the past 6 months or so that we've been running this league. So now it's time to see what everyone's got, and let's see exactly what we're. Oh, okay. So let's see what we're doing today. We are doing Team versus Magical Ponies. Team is of course my team. We will be seeing Elmaster versus Pro Forward on Destination. That's going to be a ZVZ. I forgot to put the races. I'm sorry. We will be seeing Evil Eye on Jade against Neon Sword. That's going to be a Protoss versus Terran match. Then we're going to be seeing Locktier versus Jordaddy on Demian. That's going to be a TVP as well. Then Zeldaran versus Darknet Hunter on Overwatch is going to be a TVT. And to close it all off, we'll have F10 EQQ against N Baker on Circuit Breaker. That's going to be a PVZ. Now, Shugo, I don't think you saw the last broadcast because it was like yesterday, and I forgot to send it to you because I did do review some of those replays that you sent me. But basically, the reason why I'm saying that is because we changed the format a little bit of how we grade the players. Now we kind of try to separate into macro, micro, strategy, and swag. Now, strategy kind of is strategic plays, but also like your build order choice, your reactions, and swag is kind of a loose term. And then we also rate the match on a star basis. So if you just keep that in mind while we're watching the games, I would like your feedback after each game to so that you can so we can give people these grades, let them know how they're doing and how they have progressed over the course of the league.
Yeah, let's do it. And just by looking at these names, I mean, I don't really know any of these people because they're all garbage. Like, but El Master, I recognize the name. Evil Eye sometimes hangs out with like Dragons people, even though I think there's some beef going on there.
Hmm.
And then Jor Daddy hangs out with us all the time. So I'm eager to see that game, the third one.
Yeah, I actually he had beef with me, Jordaddy, and we just squashed it about an hour ago in a in a best of three. It's- a lot of these players are some of the top performers in the league. Darknet Hunter, Evil Eye is number one actually. L Master also a very strong player. F10 EQQ, I believe, was just outside the top 10 as well. So it's gonna be an interesting series, and this is of course for all the marbles. It's gonna be best of one for each match, and the winner of this goes on to the finals, and the winner of the finals goes on to the grand finals to face Team Dragon Herb. So let's just get right into the games. I'm going to put the Boudoir up, and I'm going to host CPL password CPL. Oh, don't do this to me. Oh no, this hate when that happens. Okay, good. Um, so yeah, I'm gonna host up the first game now, and give me 1 second. Replay CPL. Oh, did I do that wrong? I thought I put the replays in here. Let me see this. Oh, playoffs, true. Okay, semifinals and first game, El Master Pro Forward on Destination. It's gonna be CPL. Ah, damn, you can't do tab anymore to enter the password. Password is gonna be CPL as well.
All right. And all right, I'm in.
All right, so let's get right to it. This is gonna be a ZVZ. I feel like ZVZ is really interesting on this map because both players are gonna scout each other very early on with just the Overlord. Yep, and in the top we have Infarction, aka L Master, as the Red Zerg.
Yep. And then at the 6 o'clock, we've got Zerg again, pro forward.
Okay, and so yeah, like I said, both overlords are going to go directly to the mains of the other player, so that they're going to be able to find out what the other person is doing very early on. So I feel like almost Cheese is. It's kind of hard for me to say because I feel like Tai 2 would say that Cheese is better on two-player maps, and he does often cheese on two-player maps because of the security that you think you have by scouting with the overlord first. But at the same time, I feel like Cheese is also harder to pull off because of that first scout. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think, well, Tai2 is pretty crafty player, actually. Kind of makes sense. Like, you think that you're going to scout first, so, oh, okay, well, I'm going to scout him first, so let me just play safe because I'm going to see him right away. But I think that's a valid point. However, I don't do any of that. I'm a very safe player, and I think I've preached this in very much of our previous cast, so that's kind of where I'm still going to stand by.
And we do see actually Pro Forward is going with the 5 pool here. So definitely a Tide 2 player, and obviously Tide 2 is the coach of Magical Ponies as well. So I find it unsurprising that Pro Forward chose to go this way. We've also recently seen some games from Pro Forward against Elmaster actually, so this is a rematch, and those games did not go very well for Pro Forward. After his cheese failed, he didn't really have the late game ability to stay alive. So it's gonna be interesting to see if his 5 pool pays off here. But in the meantime, we do see that Elmaster. It looks like he went for a 12 pool. So
Yeah, he did 12 pool with fast gas, which is just standard, I guess, for ZVZ.
actually,
I mean,
yeah,
judging by this right now, though, I feel that Infarction, and is that Elmaster?
yeah,
I forget.
and
Yeah, I think Elmaster should be okay.
yeah, it was actually
Because,
overpool, not 12 pool. So he's gonna be even in a better position than
yeah,
I had previously thought. And
and if you notice, like, Blue Pro Forward is like, you go 5 pool, but he's not even attacking. I mean, and he sent his drones out, and I don't even know what he's doing at this point. So this is horrible. Like, I think the game's already over at this point.
I think he
Like,
was trying to duck the Overlord, and he managed to do so. So Infarction still doesn't have a clue about what's coming his way. The Overlord arrived at the bridge a little bit late, but
this is an easy hold at the ramp, though, at this point, unless he does, like, yeah, see, like, Elmaster standing at the ramp, that's pretty much game. 2 drones off, like, oh my goodness. Like, people go, it's a best out of 1, and people are playing like this. It's pitiful.
well, like I said, I think Pro Forward knows that he didn't have much of a chance of winning in the late game, so he went for this early cheese. He's trying to build the colonies with the drones. One of them is about to almost get picked off. He does throw down the other colony, but with only 3 lings remaining, it's going to be hard for him to do any damage here.
Yep.
I love this.
Yeah, I don't know. I just feel like if you go 5 pool, why would you take so long to go attack? You know, he took longer than he needed to attack, to, like, gather his drones. And I mean, you have to rally the 6 zerglings right away, like, and there should be no halt at all. So this is just, he wasted at least 10 seconds.
Absolutely, you're true. And the initial micro engagement on the ramp did not go his way either. He sent the drone in front, whereas generally you want to have the drone right behind the front line so you can use the ranged attack behind the links. That did not happen, and speed is now finished for Elmaster. He is going to get caught off guard by these 2 links that Pro Forward intelligently hid, but I feel like it's almost an overreaction from Elmaster. Okay, now he's going to fix it. Yeah, I was going to say, you don't have to send all of your links back. You do have a wide opening right now to try to do damage to Pro Forward.
And I do have to comment on you using the word intelligently, the 2 links he intelligently sent. Let's not use that word for this game.
Okay, that's kind of brutal, but I mean it is a good idea. You know, I mean, like that's exactly what a lot of high-level ZVZ players do. And nice micro here from. Go ahead.
And I guess I want to make a comment. Like, you think the idea of him playing like this, you said it's because he's just a weaker player, he has no chance, and that was it. Kind of that was his mentality.
Absolutely. So he did manage to get a sunken up. It's going to help him defend against this, but with only 2 drones remaining, even picking off 1 would be absolutely brutal to him. Elmaster, nice, got the pickup off on 1 drone. Is the second one going to go down? Oh my god, all drones are down. 50 minerals remaining for Pro Forward, and Elmaster now throwing down the Spire is going to be in a commanding lead, and Pro Forward GG's out. Oh my goodness.
I guess I should say I didn't expect much. There's not even honestly much to comment on that. It's just, I just still think, like, if he just rallied his Zerglings and didn't waste those 10 seconds, it's possible that he could have been up the ramp before Elmaster got to hold the ramp with his Zerglings. Just like, if you're going to 5 pool, then it has to go directly. You know, that was just, I don't know. It was horrible.
It was
I'm
it
just,
was questionable for sure.
yeah.
Okay, so like I said, we're gonna do the grades and the match rating, but there's just so little to go off in that game. So like you can't even really say like someone's macro was good or bad. I mean, Elmaster didn't really make any mistakes in his macros, so I guess I'll just give him a B. There was nothing exceptional about it, but also nothing very demanding either. The micro from Elmaster, I really liked it. I mean, he managed to grab a lot of the Zerglings that were running out of the natural of pro forward, and then also he held the ramp. He made the little semicircle that is perfect for holding the ramp. He also, when Jordaddy split, he sent three Zerglings to snipe Elmaster's drones, and he left the sunken colony kind of undefended. Elmaster split 3 and 3, left 3 on the sunken colony 3 to fight off the other 3 lings, and he pulled the drones, used the drone mineral walking trick. So you can't really complain about anything there. I feel like he played that very well on his own. So give him an A for that. Now, as far as strategy, again, not much to see there. I like his pool was solid, safe. Over pool gas, and then the follow up is obviously really good as well, going straight for the spire afterwards because he knows that pro forward's not going to have anything. So I think we can give him an A on that as well. And as far as swag, there wasn't really anything swagalicious about it. Just a very standard play, so he's going to get a C for that. What do you think about those grades?
Um, yeah, you know what I think? Like, I think those grades, in my opinion, should be based off of like the opponent you play. And so, like macro, I agree. Like, there's nothing to macro off of. So, just in my opinion, C or B. Kind of agree with you. Micro, you said he had like a nice semicircle and all that, but it's just like you're playing against the computer basically. Like that's how bad that guy was. So
Oh my god.
anyone should be able to micro against that. So I don't, in my opinion, I don't think it's an A. I think that's again like a C or a B because what are you really microing against? Nothing, right? And then strategy. I would give A for strategy because he did a safe build, and I'm all for safe builds. So I would agree with the A on strategy. And swag is like, yeah, I mean, you play safe, usually don't have much swag, so C makes sense there.
True. So it's pretty much the same story for Pro Forward. I mean, going 5 pool, you don't really have the need to really macro for anything. So I'm just gonna give him a straight C for that. I mean, he didn't really have to produce anything.
Please just give this man F's across the board. Just so he looks at this and just sees how dumb he was, honestly.
Oh my God, I feel so bad because I mean I hosted the game for them, right? And some person, Jordaddy, went in there saying like, "Oh, can I obs?" And Pro Forward's like, "No, I'm shy." Like so I feel like grilling him that hard is kind of brutal if he's already like a little insecure about his skill. But as you said, I mean the harsh facts are the harsh facts. I mean his micro is absolutely definitely
Trash. Trash.
yeah. I'm debating whether to give him the D minus or just a straight up F because. There was just so much wrong with it. All right, I'm gonna go with the D minus. The busting up the ramp with the drone ahead really was a terrible mistake. Um, the losing 3 lings trying to run in and then not being able to really pick off any drones. I mean, Elmaster played better than he did, and he was already in a shitty situation, but his micro was just not present a lot of the time. So
And, and then honestly, like the whole thing of strategy, I know I'm just kind of skipping here, but the strategy was just so off. Like you sent 2 drones with the Zerglings, they all went to the side of the map. Like what kind of strategy is that? That if you're gonna give D minus, fine, I'll give it to you. But come on, please give the man an F somewhere.
for strategy, I mean, he showed some thought. Like I like the fact that he hid the 2 lings later, try to have some way of recourse after the utter failure that was the opening build. He did what's it called? He did try to hug the wall so that the Zerglings and the drones don't get spotted by the Overlord. So I mean, there was thought there. It's unfair to call him just a straight CPU player, but as you said, the choice of the strategy was definitely absolutely questionable. Did not work out for him at all. So I'm content to just give him a D for that. And in
Yeah,
terms of
I mean, you could also make the argument that a monkey could do 5 pool, right?
okay,
I'm just saying, I'm just playing devil's advocate. So, but okay,
you're not
fine.
you're not wrong. All right, well, and as far as the swag, I like giving swag points for ballsy plays. I mean, that was a ballsy play, even if it was misguided. So I'll give him a B minus for the swag there. It's definitely more than a neutral play, and like I said in the beginning of the match, he was in a desperate position, facing off against Elmaster, someone who had just 2-0'd him like 2 weeks prior, um, and also against a mechanically superior player in a game in a match that is almost entirely run on mechanics. So um, I'm gonna give him the B- for swag. He did what he had. He tried to do what he had to do, but he didn't end up succeeding. So I'm gonna give him.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. And I just want to make one comment.
Mhm.
Like, I know it's best of one, and this is the playoffs, and these are like not good players, but from my experience, people who usually cheese or do like some all-in play like this are usually not confident in their skill. That's why usually you just see the better player always just playing safe because they know that once the other guy makes one mistake, it's over. Like that's the main reason I go safe because I'm confident in my play. Really
Yeah.
against anyone. So that's I think that's like it's like a morale slash confidence thing that you've got going on. And I mean, Tai two is pretty good, right? Like I'm not gonna say he doesn't have confidence or whatever. That's just how he plays. But generally, like if you're gonna always cheat, you're just not confident in your play. And like if you're not confident in your play, you're gonna stay in these CPL leagues for the rest of your life. Like
No, it is true, but you also I respect the fact that Tai 2 taught his team what he is comfortable in. It wouldn't make sense for him to teach something a play style that he himself isn't very good at. Well, I'm not saying he's not very good at, because like you said, he is a good player. But he taught them what his forte is. I feel like if you're gonna teach cheese, you would want no other coach than Tai 2. So at the end of the day, it might be almost expected that his players are going to cheese my players, but and it is an important skill I think to develop. Especially if you are playing in a series. Having a cheese to mess with the mentality of your opponent is very
yeah,
crucial.
I understand that. Like the coach is going to teach their players like the way that they play. Like you're going to mimic that sort of thing. I understand, but I guess this is the thing towards like Tai two and his team that these are low level players. Like they don't have the skills and mechanics and understanding to like pull these things off. So I think for like low level like garbage like this, like they just need to learn the fundamentals. And I tell like Dragon and that whole team all the time the same thing. Like so and Drag plays safe anyway, so that's how he teaches them. But it is what it is.
Yeah. So let's move on to the next game. We got a game named CPL, password CPL, and I also the match rating. I had 1 star there because I just copy and paste that star to give multiple stars, but I think leaving that 1 star there is a fair assessment of that game. Um, so moving on to Jade, it's going to be Evil Eye versus Neon Sword PBT. Let's move in.
Yep. Let's do it. Jordaddy's game is getting a lot of hype in the chat channel.
Yeah. All right, so in the bottom right, we got Neon Sword, the yellow Terran. He's also a prolific streamer, I want to mention, or at least he was in recent times. I've seen his stream a lot of times. He's definitely climbing there in terms of skill, so I'm really excited to see how he does against Evil Eye, the best player in the league.
Nice. And then at the 7 o'clock, we've got Evil Eye, the orange Protoss.
Yep, and this was obviously, a match that people look forward to. We got Seriosity in here, we got Tai 2, we got some guy named SL Teddy, not sure who he is, but...
That guy, I got to comment, that guy, Teddy, honestly, he is truly autistic. Like, I wouldn't even ever allow him in the CPL league, so if he ever asks, don't let him in.
Okay, well, Evil Eye being a lot more generous than you and I, having a lot more of a benevolent character. He's allowing all this observers to stay in, and Evil Eye in general, just been an all around stand up dude throughout the entire league. He actually got paired up with Neon Sword as on I would say 5 or 10 minutes before the matches started. Tai 2 submitted his lineup with a player missing. He's like, I'm not putting anyone there. So Evil Eye had the option of taking the walkover, but ended up not doing so. But let's get back to the game real quick because we do see that Neon Sword is going.
Yeah, I was gonna say Neon Sword going for looks like BBS in the middle of the map.
Yeah, and I do want to note that his timing is actually really good on this. A lot of times you see people attempt BBS and not be very good at it because they arrive and they only have 80 minerals, so they have to sit there and wait for the barracks to finish. Or the second SCV arrives and there's 300 minerals. It's deceptively hard to time the distance from your main to the center of the map. And what's your opinion on this barracks placement too? The fact that he has spread them out, one on one side, one on the other. Do you think that?
Actually, I'm okay with it. I don't think that the long-term effect is really anything crazy, but actually I like it because let's say that your opponent's at the 7 or your opponent's at the 1, which is how he kind of placed his barracks. your first Marine from either of those will reach that distance just slightly faster. So just in case you don't scout in time, you can send that one, like the one that's in the middle can go faster to the 7, like if he doesn't scout in time. I'm thinking
True.
like from a timing perspective, it actually kind of makes sense. You'll get like an extra second to be, for the Marine to reach just a little bit faster in like a certain position. It's not a big deal, but I'm okay with it.
All right, so Evil Eye got a little bit lucky. He scouted Neon Sword first, and my question is, you being a Protoss player, you having played, numerous games, a lot of them against BBS, I'm sure. What would your reaction be in this case? What is do you think the go-to standard safe reaction to BBS that you scout?
Yeah, so like on this map, I don't like his gateway placement. I would put the gateway placement on this map at least closer to the ramp because you never know what's going to happen. And now the thing is, like, let's say he was playing like a Terran player who's like really, really like scummy. He'll like bunker at the top of the ramp and then he'll slowly bunker downwards and then downwards, and like you wouldn't even know. I mean, it looks like the Terran player is going to scout last, but if your gateway's at the ramp earlier, I mean, it's just better. And then also in this map, I would particularly probably put my second pylon above the ramp right away, so you can see what's coming. So at least on this map. And to answer your question, I think like the proper way to play is just play normal. Because once you get range out, you're pretty much going to win. Unless
True.
you micro like a complete moron. But you can just get range out, and his core placement's good. Like, it's away from everything, so he should be able to get the range going. And then, essentially, one Zealot, one Dragoon is enough to usually hold. And then, another reason why you put the pylon on this map, at least above near your natural, is so you can drill quickly upwards towards the ramp, like when he's coming. So you have to react to all those things fast enough and kind of plan it. Usually my second or third pylon, I always place somewhere like that because you never know when you need to drill.
That's a great point. And we do. There is of course, the famous game. I think it was Light versus Tempest on this map, where the BBS from Light got deflected, with the shield battery and the one Dragoon, which makes me kind of wonder. Do you think it would be safer to go 2-gate as a response to this, or do you think that one gateway into range is the better option?
I think it depends actually on your micro. Like if you have like decent micro, I think with range, just go for the range. Like you can win. Like 2 Dragoons with range can like crush so many Marines if you know how to micro. But then again, like these players are pretty bad, so who knows? Like maybe they need to go 2-gate, right? Like I think it's dependent upon like where you are in your skill threshold.
Absolutely, and we already see that Evil Eye, he didn't put any probes on the gas, so I'm going to suspect that he's going to go Zealot and probably throw down another pylon right now. He did cut probe production as well, not sure if that was intentional or not, but let's see what happens next. Does make the Zealot right away, and he actually does go for the gas also, so correction on that. He is going to continue playing that. He's going to put 2 on gas. I like this decision. He does need more minerals than gas in the early game. But range's timing is also important, so we're going to see how
But
this goes.
It looks like scouting the Terran, he found out because he's following the one SCV to the middle of the map, and now he knows. So, I mean, this is like the worst possible thing that could happen to the Terran. Like, now he knows. So once you know as a Terran, I mean, as a Protoss, it's pretty much like a game one, honestly. Like you can't possibly lose this. Like once you know.
True.
Like yeah, he's making a second Zealot. I guess that's fine. I think it's an okay reaction, but still, like I think getting range is important because, like, in this position, what if the Terran did bunker above the ramp and then slowly bunkered again below the ramp? You still won't have range. Like you're gonna kind of be like, I don't know.
Oh man. But the 2 Zealots are doing a lot of work on these Marines.
Yeah.
A couple of flubbed micro decisions from Neon Sword, but he is getting that bunker up. So if that Marine manages to stay alive long enough and he manages to put that bunker up, it is going to be kind of a pain for him. And as you noted, he did get 2 Zealots and he got 2 gateways also, so that delayed his range a little bit. Tai 2 saying Justice Plan. Hopefully he didn't say that out loud in the middle of the game. But the bunker does go down actually, and now I feel like Neon Sword is wide open now. He's going to be in a lot of hurt soon.
Yeah. So I mean, this is like he found out that it was coming. He could make 2 Zealots. He put down a second gate. I mean, it is what it is, right? Like, and once again, I just want to note, like in both games so far, the other player who I guess mentally thought that they were weaker just went for a cheese, and you see how it plays out. Like, Like I don't know how this is gonna end, right? But like just based on where this is going, it seems like Evil Eye is like well ahead, right? So
Absolutely. Um, Zella is going to be actually able to do some damage here, but I like the fact that Neon Sword brought a lot of the Marines back with him. He's going to be able to hold here for a while. Curiosity outright leaves. He's like, I'm not trying to stick around for this. Um, Zealots are going to be start moving across the map. We do have our probe going to make a Nexus even, so I like this move from Evil Eye. I mean, he could outright win most likely, but if you're ahead, get more ahead. I can respect it. Throws down the Nexus. And yeah, actually we don't. Yeah, the first two Dragoons are out, so now it's gonna become increasingly difficult for Neon Sword to hold
yeah,
it.
and I don't actually have no pity for people who lose like this. Like it's a best of one. Like why are you doing this? Like same thing as the guy who went five pool. Like I don't know. Like is this the guy from Yellow on Tai Two's team?
Yep, yes he is.
Yeah. See, like Tai Two's basically setting his team up to lose. Like this just wasn't gonna work. Like it's very rare that it works. Like it's a best of one. Like you got to think like with the other person's coach. You don't think like they've already warned them like be careful of cheese, be careful of this. Like it's a best of one. Like what do you expect? You know?
Yeah, you have to also realize that Tai 2, well, according to what I heard at least, is like he shows up right in the channel at game time, right? And he's like, wait, hold on, I need to go do a practice run with my what's called with my player, right, with Neon Sword, right, before his match. So, and then that practice game lasted 4 minutes. So I feel like he almost, he ratted on himself. He kind of dry snitched on himself, by having a 4 minute practice round with his player.
Yeah. I just don't think it's good coaching, but that's another topic.
So
Um, this is look. Yeah, I mean he got a bunker. Like he's trying to do what he can, but it's also stupid to put the bunker below. Like you would put the bunker at the top with SCVs behind it repair and try to like get ahead that way. Like you put the bunker at the bottom. It just seems like these players don't even understand the map. Like
absolutely.
understanding the ramp, the advantages you get from being over ramp or below ramp, etc. So I just think like these folks don't understand the map. It makes sense. Like just look at the play. Like it makes sense that they don't understand this. They probably don't understand any map. So
Besides fighting spirit, of course.
yeah, I doubt they even understand that map. We'll see.
Well, I think Evil Eye is taking a very commanding position here. It's like 6 SCVs against 4 Dragoons. Evil Eye is also taking his third Nexus as well, really cementing his lead and demonstrating the power of the #1 player in the league. Throwing down a pylon in front of the factory even to block any machine shop that could have imagined of itself doing it. Now Neon Sword sending the parade of SCVs. I wonder he's maybe just going to scout his opponent, see exactly what he was doing, but it's going to be it's going to be comical, I think.
Yeah, yeah. This is just bad. And also, I see some people in the chat. Like I have two monitors, so I can read the chat at the same time. So some people are saying that this guy, the Terran Neon Sword, was inactive and he just came back and started playing. I just don't think that's any justification at all. Like, who cares? Like, just because you're gone for 3 months doesn't mean you lose all intellect of the game, right? Like, I take breaks too here and there, and I don't come back like playing autistic, right? Like, you're rusty, you lose some mechanics, but you don't lose like the fundamentals, like the game sense. It just seemed like this guy never understood the game, whether he was active or not. So I wouldn't say that as any kind of justification for this guy losing.
I mean, technically you're right. I mean, everyone takes breaks, and I feel like breaks can actually be extremely beneficial too, because you kind of when you come back, you lose some of the bad habits you have. You look at the game slightly differently than you did in the past, maybe. But as you said, I mean, not very much justification. And I feel like if you know that you're rusty, I wouldn't go for such an all-in micro-intensive build. Because I feel like micro is one of the things that really rusts the most. When you take that break because you haven't controlled units in 3 months. I mean, you're not gonna be good at microing Marines against zealots. So that does put team up 2-0 so far. And let's talk about the games and the grades, I guess. So let's start off with Evil Eye. Hold on. Okay, good. So yeah, let's start off with Evil Eye. Macro, I didn't really see anything wrong with his macro. I mean, the fact that he went for 3 Nexus, really dominant display of what he was going for. He's gonna be like, even if I don't outright win right now, I'm gonna be very far ahead. So no complaints there. I'll give him an A because he well, A minus because wasn't really under any pressure. so it's hard to say how good his macro would have been if he did have to use all three of those bases. The micro, it was good. It was decent. You know, it did what it had to do. But it's again mostly I think the failing of Neon Sword, losing the first couple Marines quite easily. So can't give too much credit for that. He did. I mean, yeah, like I said, can't. It's hard to say that he earned anything greater than a B for sure. Strategy. I think that as he didn't exactly go by what you said, but I think that the reaction was still very good. Getting those two zealots out, getting the two gateways up to be guarantee his safety, getting the range pretty much as early as possible. I think he hit it as soon as he got 150, 150. So great response. I'll give him an A for the strategy there. Um, and for swag, there was, I mean, I guess he was kind of styling on him by going for three Nexus, but there wasn't really much opportunity for him to do anything there, besides just dump on Neon Sword really quickly. So I'm gonna give him a C plus on that. Now, as far as Neon Sword himself, I would say that his macro, again, just a situation where you macro doesn't really isn't really a measurable thing. It's uh when you're going for BBS, it's not that hard to keep your macro up. But he did, as I mentioned before, start the buildings at the right time in the center of the map. He did try to almost transition to something later by adding the factory. So that means he was, paying attention to both the micro and the macro to some degree. So I'll give him a C plus for that. Now the micro, kind of similar to Pro Forward, a lot of failings there, a lot of mistakes in the micro control. So can't really give him too much credit for that. I'm going to give him a D for the micro. In a micro intensive build, your micro has to be better than a D for it to work. Strategy, again, can't knock him for trying to do a cheese against a
Yeah,
superior player, but go ahead.
but the thing is on the strategy, like even if it fails, you have to know what to do after that point to come back into the game. For instance, he made the bunker below the ramp. Just imagine if he made the bunker above the ramp, had a command center behind it. I mean, he would have still lost anyway, but I'm just saying, like, that would have been the right mentality, you know?
True.
So from that point, like, you can't just base it on the strategy he chose. Yeah, he chose BBS, it failed. Strategies and builds fail all the time, but I think true strategy is what do you do after it fails? Like, how do you come out of it? What do you do
Hmm.
to come back into the game, make a comeback? Like, I'm
Yeah.
not seeing any of these people at all.
Yeah. I would say
And
that,
it's not that I mean, you fail BBS. Realistically, you're gonna lose, right? Like I'm not saying like there's no, like it's not like Flash. Like even if Flash did it and it failed, like he could lose the game, right? But my point is like there's just a way like at least show that you know what to do, or just
mhm.
GG and leave so you don't embarrass yourself.
Yeah, the bunker was really the telling moment for me when he placed the bunker on the low ground. That really just showed me that he was not prepared for any outcome besides outright winning or outright losing with the
Yeah, and
BBS.
it's just like if you know that this fails, just leave. Like that's the thing. Like I see so many people who just stay in games. Like there's this one guy we play with. Like you guys probably don't know him. Like an IC Cup, his name is Blade.
Hmm.
Like the guy will be down 100 supply and just sit in the game. Like what are you doing? Like it's the same concept. Like just leave. You know it's over. Just leave.
Hmm. Well, I mean, there is something to be said about the fantasy GG timing. I mean, I feel like when you're extremely behind, you learn a lot of things about the game just by trying to survive. But yeah, on the other hand, you also might be better off just starting the next game and not wasting everybody's time. But in this case, it is a league match. It is the playoffs, so I can understand why Neon Sword didn't leave right away. Maybe sending the five SCVs to Evil Eye's Natural was kind of a little bit beyond fantasy GG timing, but it is what it is. I'm gonna give that game 1.5 stars because Evil Eye played well, and even though Neon Sword's cheese was actually slightly more successful than Pro Forward's, just because he almost got that bunker up, he did kill some zealots. Almost, I mean, he was. I feel like not close to making it happen, but the bunker, the fact that he could have held hypothetically, I guess, earned him a half star. I don't know. Anyway, so now it is on the rest of Magical Ponies to win the series. I mean, Jordaddy against Locktier, Darknet Hunter against Zeldaran, and Baker against F10EQQ. All three of these guys need to win. So let's find out what happens next.
Yeah, I'm excited for Jordaddy. Very excited for Jordaddy. Number one Cuba.
That's actually very likely. I mean, he did move to the United States recently, but he is probably the number one player in Cuba for sure. So yeah, and it's gonna be on Demian. Three-player map. Rush distances are shorter than they are on most other maps. So it's gonna be interesting to see what happens here. I know Locktier was also preparing some builds specific to this map as well, so I'm really interested to see how it goes. Game name is CPL, password is CPL, and it is up.
Yep, I'm ready to go.
All right, let's roll. Let's roll. So in the top left, kind of ish, the 11 o'clock position, we got Jordaddy as the blue Protoss.
And at the 7 o'clock, we've got Loctis. Who is that? What's the?
Locktier. I think he told me to pronounce it Locktier. He's on my team. He's a Russian guy. Doesn't
Okay.
speak much English, you know. We practiced quite a lot a couple months ago, but recently he's been busy with other stuff, so he is a little bit out of shape, but he did say that he practiced a build specifically for this map and his opponent, so it's going to be interesting to see how it works out.
Yeah. So let's see how this game goes. Doesn't look like any SCVs or probes headed to the middle of the map. Both are building SCVs, so maybe we'll get a standard game. Let's see.
Yeah, having played Jordaddy, you know, shortly after this game was played, I played him TVP game one as well because I wanted to see, you know, kind of where he was at, you know, like without even knowing the result of this game, I want to see like, oh, what kind of a player did Locktier play, right? So, in that game, he kind of went really aggressive off two bases, and he tried to take a hit in third as well, and tried to bust me quite a few times using shuttle and what's called shuttle drops with zealots. You know, kind of almost the old school what is it called, the bulldog build, but without the reaver. Because sometimes with bulldog you do make reaver as well, I think, or at least you can open reaver and then go bulldog. But so it's gonna be see if interesting to see if he goes for that kind of aggressive style play and if Locktier can do his work holding it.
Hey, is there a way for us to hide the replay progress? Because everyone's like they're saying like hide it, hide it.
Let me see if I can do something about that. Give me one second. Sorry
Yeah,
about that, because like I said, this is now my second time playing on what's called the 1.18. So
yeah. I mean, I don't know, but everyone's asking about it. So
okay, yeah, I'll see what I can do. Give me one second. Pictures. I mean, that is a good idea. I should have thought about that, but you
they're
know,
saying put an overlay over it. I guess. I mean,
okay. Yeah, I mean, that's what I'm gonna do, but you know, obviously, again, since I'm doing using OBS for the first time as well, in a while, let me see what I can do with it.
yeah.
Okay.
To DNH, I think all of the games were played on 118. So
Yeah, no, only two of them, but because of the fact that we can't host them on 1.16, um, let me see. Hold on.
but some people are saying, can we host the games on 16.116 if they were played on 116, or is that like not allowed in the rules?
I mean, no, normally all the games are on 1.16, but because I have a mix of 1.18 and 1.16, I can't do all the replays at once. I'd have to turn off the stream, turn back on the stream because if you
Oh,
use
yeah, and we have
MCA,
to switch. We have to switch platforms and all that. So okay,
yeah.
that makes sense.
Hold on, I'm trying to fix this real quick. Navigation. No. God damn it. Let me see. Open with.
My guess that Jae Hoon Han is probably Beast. I'm just talking to the people in the
Yeah, go
chat.
ahead. If anyone has any questions about the game, I feel like this would be a perfect time for Shugo to dispense some knowledge. And while I'm trying to set this up real quick, I'll put on some music. No, actually, you might be talking, so I'll do that later. Let me see. Okay, okay, okay.
Anyone on the stream have any questions, or I don't know, maybe we can talk shit on somebody or anything while we wait.
Yeah, ask about. I mean, people can ask about strategic things. I think that would be the most educational thing about it. Mostly educational thing that we can do. So let's see.
Everyone just like keep talking shit about anyone.
Well, shit talking is cool too. I mean, that's half of what gaming is, in my opinion.
Yeah.
At least that's how I
Yeah, a
play.
lot of these people are so damn soft. Like Funny thing is, I go into that Dragon Herb channel, like that's where we all hang out, because I'm friends with all those guys,
Hmm.
and I see like a new like CPL candidate, I guess, every single day or every few days.
Hmm.
And my thing is, I always just troll them. Like I'll just be like, "Hey man, you want to play a one-on-one? I'm so new to Brood War," and like just like troll them. And then we just start playing, and I just like absolutely crush them, or I don't know. And just, they get like so angry, like, "How could you do this to me? Like, I spent the last 3 weeks training with Dragon Herb and this and that." I'm like, dude, are you that? First of all, are you that stupid to like just think that somebody's gonna ask you for a game? Like, you're garbage. And the second thing is, like, do you not know anything? Like, at least know my username. Like, just I don't know. I'm just very very disappointed about these new people.
Ah, well,
So
new people are like children, they haven't been raised yet. It's our duty to raise them. But I think, set up the overlay. So if
oh yeah, it's working. Yeah, it looks good.
Sweet. Okay, so we are moving into the game now. We have a little bit of a dancing disco here at the ramp of the empty base. Locktier is not going to get fooled by it, though. He is going to go inside. I mean, he is going to get fooled by it. He's going to check the base. And we actually have two probes out from Jordaddy, which is doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Maybe he's really suspecting that there's going to be a BBS of some sort. Or maybe is he gonna do a proxy gate of his own? Do a two gate with only one gate being evident.
Yeah, it looks like to me he's going to scout with one to make it look like, hey, I scouted with my real probe,
Hmm.
but at the same time, he's doing a proxy somewhere else. That's my assumption right now, or he's just really bad and just accidentally sent that probe there. So
Yeah. I mean, I would have to guess that this would have to be a gateway if he makes it here. Like, normally if you want to proxy a robo, you would proxy it, at a third base somewhere, like over here or on the high ground one over here. So I am gonna hope that he is making a gateway here. Locktier does go inside the base. He sees that the cybernetics core is up. He should note, I think, that the second pylon is missing. This is something that is really crucial, I feel like, in TvP, is counting the pylons, and in PvP as well. Whenever you see that there's a missing pylon, you can obviously assume that the player is bad, but it's a lot safer to assume that they're proxying.
yeah, I think that's a really good point. Like I think even higher level players sometimes don't keep in mind the pylons. Like you got to count them. Like that's like a huge giveaway. So it's a good point.
Hmm. And we also see that he's actually going for Citadel of Adun. So another thing that Locktier should be noting here is that the range is incredibly late in starting. So he absolutely should not be getting caught unawares by this, but he is going 2-fact behind this. So kind of a risky situation. If he doesn't lay the appropriate amount of mines on defense, these DTs could get in.
Actually, I think two fact is a great counter to DT. Actually, so.
Because you can make enough vultures and mines really quickly, right?
Yeah, like if you're like first or second vulture can get around and get into the main and get some probes, that already disrupts them, and then on top of that, you should have your mines and speed basically ready to go.
Wow, and he is actually going for the second gateway in the middle too. So I mean,
Wow.
he should note that there is no range now. He has to know that it's DT or Robo at the very least.
Yeah, and this actually Dark Templar might just be insanely fast. Like it doesn't even matter if you go two fact, right? So I think this game came down to game sense.
Yeah,
I think
right now
I think
he's not even
Yellow,
getting. Yeah,
Yellow doesn't really have game sense. He's getting mines now though, so he does like I think he must realize something. Obviously, he skipped tank, so he obviously I think he internally knows that something is coming, but I think he's too stupid to actually act on it.
yeah, he's not making any unit out of it. He's not making a vulture or a tank, and he is making a second add-on as well, which I think is a mistake here. I would rather just be pumping vultures if you're aware that it is going to be DT. And
Yeah,
oh my god,
exactly. So once the mine upgrade's ready, you can just slap down like 15 mines, you know?
but we see that the Templar Archives is finished. The gateway and the proxy is going to start making that Dark Templar, and oh man, Locktier is going for 2 tanks. He definitely does not know that this is happening. That he doesn't know that what's coming his way. He didn't figure it out based on all the context clues. Definitely terrible read on him. He had all
and
the
you know
scouting
what?
information.
The build that he's trying to do is like that old school Terran Joyo. I think that's what it used to be called, where you get like 3 tanks and then you rally vultures. Like that's the build it looks like he's trying to do.
And that's hard countered by the DT that he should know is coming.
Yeah, that's hard counter by the DT, but it's just like, yeah, I don't know. This is just horrible play. You said this is your student?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pitiful.
Like I said, he hasn't been playing very much recently, and I personally don't go DT very often myself. I guess I should have done a better job of teaching him what a DT opener looks like.
And you know what I think happened here? Like this guy figured, okay, I'm gonna do this like 3 tank, 2 fact attack, whatever. And I think like that's all he had set like in his mind. Like,
Hmm.
but he didn't know how to adapt in any possible way. And then
Absolutely.
basically, this goes to show like adaptation, game sense. Like
Ooh.
every game that we've seen so far, these people don't really have it.
Hmm.
However, with that being said, like you see, he's still surviving pretty decently.
Yeah,
Um,
that was poor micro on Jordaddy's part. I think he
yep.
should have been paying attention to where the mines are being laid. He did get the engineering bay up, so he is going to start making turrets. But now with two DTs in here, it's going to be incredibly hard to hold. The vultures are coming out late as well. Something that should be noted. He could have had more vultures and a lot more
Yeah.
mines on his ramp by now.
And now Jordaddy with the Dark Templar split, which is pretty good.
Hmm.
See what happens. All the tanks are going down. Uh, Jordaddy with the expansion. I'm happy for Jordaddy actually. I really am.
Yeah, this is a solid play from him. I mean, besides the little micro flubs that he's had, not judging where the mines are, it's hard to multitask when you're at this level. So at the same time, his build did a ton of damage already, and it's continuing to do damage. And I mean, he's locked here is going to be heavily behind by the time he manages to finally hold this. I feel like his only option at this point would be something like a lot of vulture harassment, trying to do as much as he possibly can, trying to get up into the ramp, into the main base of Jordaddy. That's really his only option
Yeah.
here.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it looks like it's probably game. Even if he, like you said, if he gets out of it, it doesn't matter. Jordaddy going with that strong 4 gate in his pace.
Hmm. Yep. That's five
So
gates total. Yeah, he's trying to go for the win right away. He's not trying to make this a long game at all, for sure. And wow, with that one extra DT, 13 kills and no GG, the game is over. Locktier dips out. And wow, yeah.
yeah.
I mean, it's
Well,
to be expected. So,
yeah, and so this is game 3, and all 3 out of 3 games so far, the common theme was somebody just did some crazy thing, and this is the first time it paid off. So,
mhm.
but that's the thing, like that's the problem. Like now, see, like Jordaddy is reinforced by this. Like, oh, I won that game. I won an important match, going all in or whatever. So they think like it reinforces the idea that they can keep doing this.
Mhm.
I just want to just say like that's still just not the case. Like
Yeah.
he's lucky because his opponent just didn't know how to react. Otherwise, this was like super, super obvious. Like
Mhm.
there was no reason that this should have ever happened.
Exactly, and one thing that's important to know is that, as we mentioned earlier, 2FAC is a good counter for DT openings because of the vulture count that you have. So Jordaddy might think, oh, this build now is good against 2FAC because he won with it, right? When the reality of the meta is completely the opposite, I feel it, and that's because of the fact that Locktier simply didn't know how to read his opponent, what he saw in the enemy base. Like, it's almost like people sometimes scout just to find out where the enemy is and don't really scout to see what they're doing, or at least don't know how to react to see what they're seeing. So let's get right into that's going to come up in a minute because we're going to be talking about the grades that we'll give locked here. So as far as macro goes, I mean he did get to the two fact situation, like at a reasonable time, but I was constantly noticing that how he wasn't producing vultures when he had the opportunity to do so. Those factories were idle at a very crucial time. Um, so I would say that his macro I would say earns no more than a D plus from me. Um, because the if he had been making units when they should be coming out, he would have been able to hold a lot better. In terms of micro, I mean there was a few times where like he laid the mines well, and then Jordaddy kind of walked into them, and I'm hearing a little interference on your end. Everything good?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm here.
Okay. So yeah, there was some micro attempted, using the vultures to lay mines, but it's not a very micro intensive situation in your main base. I don't feel like. He did do a good job of picking off the first couple of DTs, but as I said before, that's more Jordaddy's mistakes as well. So I'm willing to give him like a C minus for that because he was trying to do the right thing, but it just wasn't working out for him very well.
Yeah, and I just want to. I agree with you so far, and I just want to say like even people in the chat, like this guy DNH,
Hmm.
and he's obviously a scrub, but even he's like pointing out the same things that we're saying. So
Hmm.
like if another scrub is pointing out another scrub's mistakes, like just think how bad the mistake actually was.
Well, DNH is actually one of the best players in the league by far, and he's been in the leagues and in Team Liquid, a participant for a long time. So he's been around the block. You know, I mean, he's a very solid player. Definitely a more intelligent player than the average scrub, in my opinion. So DNH is actually Dark Knight Hunter is going to be the next game. But let's move on to lock tier strategy. Now we've already discussed this. How he absolutely failed to recognize what's coming his way. He had all of the context clues. The missing pylon first and foremost. The delayed range second. Like that to me is a 1 + 1 = 2 situation. And he didn't even bother to like look for a proxy with an SCV or something like that. He just kind of was like, oh well, this is where the Protoss is, and I don't really understand what's going on, but I'm just gonna do my build and that's it. So I really can't give anything better than a D- for strategy. Like the only reason I'm giving him any credit whatsoever is because he was pulling off an actual build, even if the build didn't make sense in that context.
Yeah, but like if you, I understand what you're saying, but at the same rate, like he failed to realize how to adapt that build in any way. Like actually, his build could have been the perfect counter.
Exactly. No, I agree with
So
you, but he gets like I'm not gonna give him an outright F. An outright F in my book is like a person who does like I don't know like 10 depot, 15 barracks, then like 23 gas, and then like 50 command center. You know what I mean?
basically, being worse than the computer is an F.
Yeah, exactly. So giving him a D- is giving him some credit that he understands at least the fundamentals of what he's doing, but not the slightly more elevated things of that go into strategy. So the C- I feel like is deserved. In terms of swag, again, like really didn't have any opportunity to swag at all on anybody. So I'm gonna actually give him a C- because he had the opportunity to do something swag, but he just gave up and left and didn't micro very well in the first place. So yeah, C- is acceptable. I feel like. Now, in terms of Jordaddy, so the macro, definitely, I mean, I couldn't find anything to complain about in his macro. Throwing down the gateways like that, I feel like it kind of speaks that he was banking a little bit too much money for a little bit too long. And considering the fact that he wasn't microing his DTs all that well, means I can't give him anything like an A. I could definitely give him a B- though, because he was staying on top of production for the most part, just maybe a little bit late on throwing down those gateways or throwing down that Nexus. So B- I think is in order there. In terms of micro, there really wasn't that much micro that I saw from him. He didn't really micro the DTs well. I mean, the splitting of the DTs was a good move, but he losing the first one to mines against a better player would be pretty much you're instantly behind. You know, the speed vultures would have been able to lay mines out in the natural on the ramp, and then suddenly all your DT shenanigans are done. So micro, I can't really give him anything more than a C. I think in that situation.
Yeah, I mean he was real sloppy with like I think the first two DTS, so I
hmm
don't think his micro was good at all actually.
Yeah. Um, and now strategy. I'm gonna give that strategy a solid B. Because I mean, first of all, it works. Second of all, it showed some cohesive thought. You know, I mean, the proxying the gateway so the DT comes out faster. I think the location he chose was actually quite decent because it's in the middle of the triangle of the normal scouting path for SCVs. But
Yeah, and I want to also note that like I don't think he intentionally did it probably, but maybe he did. But he sent one probe to scout. The other probe is what built the proxy. Sometimes people will scout real quickly and then use that same probe and go build the proxy.
mhm.
That like gives it away to the Terran sometimes. Like, oh, well, why did that probe leave so fast from my base? But he kept the probe scouting and then did it with another probe, so it removed some suspicion from the Terran.
Yeah, that was definitely a really smart play.
So
Yeah,
once again,
actually,
I don't think it was intentional. I don't think like he's has the IQ to
yeah.
do that, but it worked out that
You know,
way.
I'm gonna disagree with you, and I'm gonna say that it was intentional. We've seen him do some very intelligent things in other games in the recent weeks, so I'm gonna give him actually bump him up to an A- because I did forget about that. That was a definitely a smart play there if he did do it intentionally. And as far as swag goes, I mean, we have to again like because of the fact that he cheesed that, but this time it worked. And it was a kind of swag build, you know, putting the gateway there. I'm gonna give him a B plus. Just a shame that he couldn't pull it off to the level that was potentially possible. So that's it for the Jordaddy game. Oh, and let's give this match a star rating. I mean, again, Locktier's inability to react properly severely hampered the the potential rating for this game. But I am comfortable giving it 2 stars simply because Jordaddy showed some cohesive play and executed a strategy decently.
Fair enough.
Okay. All right. So now we're gonna move on to Zeldaran versus Dark Knight Hunter. It's gonna be a TVT on Overwatch.
Let's do it.
All right. Okay. I think I brought it back to the Brood War screen. I hope that the overlay is still there. And I'm gonna host the Zeldaran DNH game. Okay, like I said, it's gonna be on Overwatch, and this is the Foreigner Overwatch, the two-player one, not the four-player one that was used in ASL, I believe, ASL one, last year. This map, it makes a lot of sense that they sent two Terrans on this map, I think, because with the high ground positions around it, I feel like it's a very good map for Terrans. Being able to hold three gas is, I feel like, easier than on Circuit Breaker, but not as easy on FS. But I mean, we'll see what happens in this match. The mobility is going to be definitely a problem because in the middle there's a small, tiny gap. It's kind of like the Loki 2 gap, or like a little bit bigger than the Blue Storm gaps. So it's going to be interesting to see how Zeldaran, who in the top left as yellow, is going to navigate that.
Yeah, in the 5 o'clock we've got DNH Brown Terran.
Now, DNH, good Terran player. Like I said, one of the best players in the league. Zeldaran, he's coming off of a little bit of an inactivity of his own. Hasn't played in quite a few weeks. He's been very busy with work and stuff. So Zeldaran, if there's going to be a cheese this time, I'm definitely expecting out of Zeldaran. I don't think I've ever seen DNH cheese ever.
So you said Brown, DNH is one of the better players in this league.
Yeah.
So how does he do against that Evil Eye guy? Just curious.
Evil Eye beat him, I'm pretty sure. I think they did play, and I think Evil Eye did beat him 2-0 if I'm not mistaken. But DNH is, I think, easily the second best Terran in the league for sure. After Dark Matter, who Evil Eye played against him too in the recent in Week 10, and that was a really good series to watch as well. But
yeah, that guy Dark Matter is actually, he's got potential actually, and I don't, obviously I wouldn't say that about all these CPL scum, but that guy, I think he actually has some potential.
I agree with you. I mean, he's getting his mechanics up. He shows a lot of intelligence in his play, and unfortunately for him, he did lose to Evil Eye, which I think is a testament to how Evil Eye. Like, I underrated him so heavy when I was first watching him play because I'm like, yo, who is this 100 APM Protoss scrub? Like, I'm gonna take him under my wing, and
honestly, that guy Evil Eye can probably beat some of the coaches.
Oh no, he beat me. He beats me all the time. I'm like 1-14 against him. Not gonna lie, it's bad.
Sheesh.
Yeah. It's really bad, yeah, and like it doesn't make any sense how he wins. But let's not talk about Evil Eye now. We are talking about Zeldaran DNH now. DNH, it looks like he's gonna be walling off his ramp, maybe. Like I don't really, actually probably not. That's even he knows not to do that in TVT. It's generally a pointless move. Both just placing their barracks kind of close to the ramp to get that first marine out, maybe deny some scouting.
And I just want to say, like, it looks like both of these players, they kind of understand that, like, they're going to probably end up scouting with their racks after it's made, after you make like one marine or whatever, however they're going to do it. Ooh. And I do like how both of them made the barracks like, towards the edge of the base, so you kind of cut some of the travel time when you scout with it.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's also a safe place to put it. Sometimes in TVT you see people place their barracks like kind of towards the center of the map, especially on like 4-player maps, so they can cut that distance even less. But because it's a 2-player map, I feel like they're comfortable in knowing that they'll get at least the initial scout off with the SCV, and as a result, don't need to have the racks arrive as soon as maybe on other maps. And
so DNH actually skipped his second supply to make the factory just a little bit faster, and that's why you see his factory's like half done versus Zeldaran's factory's just starting basically. So just a little difference in the builds right there.
Yeah, already starting to separate a little bit. And usually I favor the player who makes the factory earlier, but we also noticed that DNH, he only has one SCV on gas, so that to me speaks that it's most likely going to be a vulture opening, I guess. I don't think he's going to be able to, or maybe no, maybe siege expand is the other possibility as well. Let's see if I'm correct on that. Nope, it is going to be the vulture first. I like this move from him, and we are seeing 2-fac from Zeldaran actually.
Okay, it makes sense. Like if you're gonna get the factory that quickly to skip the supply, like it makes sense. Just get the Vulture. I think that makes sense. And then for Zeldaran, his was a little slower, but it also makes sense. He's going 2-fac. So I think both players are they've got something going on right now. So it's fair enough.
Yeah, and I feel like Zeldaran, by making that depot, he's also like, gets a little bit more of economy. He doesn't have to cut SCVs, because which I think that actually no, DNH delayed his first Marine, so he probably didn't have to cut SCVs either. So as you're saying, both players definitely showing some understanding of how to play this matchup, or at least the builds that
Yep.
they chose.
And DNH expanding behind this little Vulture Scout. I guess he's going to try and poke around, see what he can do, but I
Hmm.
like that he expanded behind it.
Hmm.
I am actually hoping that DNH specifically makes some like very crucial mistake just so we can talk shit on him because I know he's really bad. It's always better to talk shit on him while you know they're watching.
That's true. Um, Zeldaran, he is adding two machine shops now. He's been making a lot of gas, and it looks like he is going to go for the Vulture upgrade. It's going to be two FAC Vulture apparently. If that's the case, I feel like maybe he kind of got way too much gas for a two FAC Vulture opening. You kind of could afford to make you don't need 360 gas at this point in the game, I don't think, when you're doing this. Not pulling off the SCVs off gas the same way that DNH did. But one thing I want to kind of go back to that I showed with my mouse, but I didn't say it explicitly. So when Zeldaran finished his gas, he took two SCVs off his mineral line and sent them to to mine the gas, right? But he took two SCVs that had minerals in their hands. You're not going to lose that much by selling those SCVs to first drop off the gas at the command center and then mine the gas afterwards. Like throwing away 16 minerals like that and wasting the mining time that you spent doing it is, it's why do it? You can always afford not to do that. So that's just a little mini tip there. In the meantime, we are seeing four vultures out on the map moving out. DNH is aware of what's coming his way now. He knows that it's going to be two fac vulture, and he himself has two factories, so he's going to be able to match the production. And the fact that he got a command center up behind it definitely shows that he has a pretty firm grasp of the game, I think.
Yeah, and DNH, I mean, this is a good standard build, I think.
Hmm.
So I think we'll see how this plays out.
Hmm. I love the fact that he's making a bunker. It's not absolutely necessary, but it is going to help him hold off a little bit of this harass. Doesn't want to lose the what's called the marine though.
And I actually like that he tried to repair like one or two vultures in that little fight there
Hmm.
because still you get like an extra shot or two out of it.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
yeah,
And
I mean, see at this point, like the opponent Zeldaran did a two fact. His command center, at his natural is just starting.
hmm.
I mean,
Ooh,
just
Siege Tank
not
eats
looking too
mine.
promising.
Yeah, Siege
Yeah.
Tank traveling alone across the map like this is definitely going to suffer greatly, hitting mines and such. Don't think that this is a safe choice to do at all. He is getting siege mode though, so he's going to probably try to go for some sort of contain, but he actually lost all of his vultures now. He has no vultures and only one siege tank and one vulture against
And I
the.
do want to mention that DNH in that little battle, he actually put like two or three vultures at the top of the ramp so the opponent couldn't just like escape.
Very nice play there for sure.
So actually, that was pretty good. I don't
Yeah.
know. When I watch these players, I just feel like they do these things by accident. I just don't have faith that he actually did that, but we'll never be able to prove it. So
Yeah, I mean, it's not like he's watching right now, so like we can't. His testimony, we'll just never know. But in the meantime, we do see that Zeldaran is going to be trying to play defensively. He has a siege tank sieged up, and it looks like by sending this third SCV, maybe he's considering going for a quick third behind this, which I think is like the best way for him to get back into this game. The SCV from DNH, there definitely a good choice to leave it there, so he's gonna be aware of Zeldaran's moves. But maybe this, yeah, let's see what this SCV does because it could have just been sent out to scout, maybe. Who knows?
yeah, I think DNH's build was really nice here.
Hmm.
Um, I just think that two fact in TVT is. I mean, you don't even see pros doing it that often, actually. Even if we saw all the ASL games, no one really. I think two fact occurred like maybe one or two times. So I think people should just keep that in mind. Like it's pretty easy to beat.
Yeah, but I mean, there was a time when Two Fact Vulture was very popular. I think it's a map-dependent style. I remember a game. I think it was Firebat Hero. Don't remember who the other player was, but they literally had like, in the mid game, they would have like one tank or one Goliath and like 50 vultures, being produced from like six factories or something. It really depends on the map. I do think that on this map, with the way that how easy it is to kind of take your natural and your third gas in TBT, I don't think that a vulture heavy style is absolutely necessary. Maybe he was just hoping to get, a quick early advantage against DNH, but DNH's build, as you said, was very solid. The follow-up factory from him came out very early, so he was able to match the
Yeah,
production.
And I do want to note that if you take a look at the map awareness here, he's kind of laying mines all over. You see a lot of brown specks across the minimap.
Absolutely.
I actually do like that. That's something to note.
Yeah, I'm gonna turn it on just his vision right now. I mean, his barracks is just now being forced out of the main base of Zeldaran, so he's been getting information that way. He also has mines all over the map, as you said, especially at the crucial points like the outside the bridge of Zeldaran and also on the high ground ramp out for Zeldaran. And then if we compare it to Zeldaran's vision of the map, who, I mean, he also still has his barracks inside DNH's base, but he really is just playing in the dark right now, especially considering the fact that he doesn't even have a comstat, no academy either. So
Yeah, and I want to note, like, because the Dark Matters in the chat just pointed something out saying that DNH's macro is a lot cleaner than Zeldaron. I think
absolutely.
that's actually very true. I mean, I've been looking at two factories of Zeldaron, the two factories without machine shops. They
Hmm.
haven't been used in about like 2 minutes now.
Yeah, another thing
Um,
to note is that he got the armory, but he didn't get +1 for quite some time. He made some Goliaths first, even before even starting the +1. So
yep.
clearly showing that he's not exactly on top of his base management to say the least. And he's also climbing in minerals when I don't think he really should be, considering he got the later expansion. He probably has a much lower SCV count just looking at the saturation that we're seeing here. And the SCV production is not there either. Definitely a lot of holes in this macro here from Zeldaron.
Yeah, and it just looks like the way that this is headed now, like DNH is going to double this guy's supply pretty soon. So,
He's already almost there, and it should be noted that DNH also got a third behind this, knows that he's safe, and that's something that he probably afforded due to the fact that he has those scanners. He was able to see that there's nothing really coming my way that I should really be worried about. I don't understand why Zeldaran feels so comfortable, just kind of sitting here in his natural sieged up. He needs to be doing something to.
yeah, and Zeldaron has, I think, like, he has such little SCVs at his natural that you can pretty much just count it by looking at it.
Hmm.
Like, it looks like he has like 10 SCVs there. You can just glance at it and just like.
Yeah.
So it's like not even mining efficiently versus his main looks like he's got like maybe 25 there. So just like his macro is really really poor even from that standpoint. And I just want to mention like something. I think people think that macro means keeping your minerals low, keeping your gas low. I mean that is part of it, but I think people tend to forget that macro is really like spend management. Like
Hmm.
where are you spending it? How are you spending it, right? Like you could be playing like a PVZ, like Protoss vs Zerg, and you could have really high minerals,
Hmm.
but have no gas, but it's because you've been macroing Templars because you need Templars in that very moment.
Hmm.
So in that case, you could have high minerals, but it doesn't mean you have bad macro. It's just
True.
so I
But
just want to put that out.
there is something to be said though about keeping your resources kind of even as well though. If like keeping both the mineral and gas count at a similar low level. Like obviously as you said, it's not always possible, especially in PVZ for example. But here I'm going to cut off myself real quick because we do see Zeldaran trying to move out, but DNH is quick on the money. He's already set up a contain here. Um, and Zeldaran looks like he's going to be completely shut in on his corner of the map, while DNH has the availability to expand again, which I think would be a good choice right now.
Yeah, and I don't know. I feel like this also comes back once again to like understanding the map, right? Like if you get contained out of this little narrow passageway where your natural is, I mean, it's pretty much impossible to get out of that. You'll have to obviously like go around,
Hmm.
figure out something, like be more strategic. But I just feel like in a map like this, you're playing TVT. It behooves you to kind of set up outside of that little narrow passageway,
Hmm.
just so you can avoid that. So once again, it just goes back to understanding the map.
Yeah, and we do see he is going to be trying to push out through this high ground position that he has. He did run into some mines, lose a siege tank there, but it is actually, I think, quite crucial for him to take this position on this high ground, not let DNH have it.
And I want to mention just one of the people in the chat actually asked that is the replay broken or does he really have that much money? Referring to Zeldaron,
Oh,
like
yeah,
no, like,
this is
this guy
legit.
really is that. This guy really is that bad, and he really doesn't know how to build units from a factory. So
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot, especially with the advent of StarCraft Remastered coming soon. A lot of people I've seen, even in this league, who came a couple of months ago, well, like 6 or 7 months ago, who from StarCraft 2, they have the high APM, like as if clicking buttons is the goal of the game, but they don't actually do anything. So, like with 180 APM, Zeldaran's macro is just significantly worse than DNH's, who has like 40 APM less. So it's just like we were talking about mismanaging resources. APM is a resource that you can definitely mismanage, in my opinion. Focusing
yeah,
on doing the wrong things at the wrong time.
Yep. You see Zeldron trying to poke around a little bit with bolters and this
Hmm.
and that, but it just, I mean, the guy really has 3K minerals and 2.6K gas. I mean, this is, you have to give this guy an F for macro. Like, I'm already thinking about the rankings. Like, this is just, it looks like he's not even playing. It looks like he's like away from his computer.
I mean, yeah, if you look at this SCV count, I think that's the most telling part of it is the fact that not only does he not have the SCV production to have fully saturated mineral lines, it's also the fact that on such a low SCV count, he still can't spend all his money wisely. I mean, he could potentially add more factories. He does have like a lot of stuff coming out of these factories now, but I feel like that's because they've been idle for so long. Meanwhile, DNH, he's been keeping his money really low, despite having the lower APM, as I said earlier.
Yeah, and actually, DNH, I've been keeping track of his factories. Like, for the most part, he's always got them pumping, right?
Hmm.
And it's not that he's queuing like four units per factory. Like, it's one at a time, which is the most effective thing, right? Like,
Hmm.
he's done an all right job at that. So,
Ooh, and we
and
see
he's
that.
got a massive army at the middle of the map going towards Zeldaron's third.
Mhm.
Looks like this could be the finishing blow right here.
Absolutely. If he takes control of this high ground, DNA Zeldaran's 12 o'clock is more or less doomed because he will cut off all reinforcement routes. Zeldaran desperately trying to set up out here, but because of the poor macro that he's had so far, he just doesn't have the tank count, and he did not establish his position up here very
Tank
well.
count. DNH has more tanks than this guy has SCVs. Like, that's how pitiful it is.
I mean, that is possible. We see that DNH is also adding a dropship, and Zeldaran does the correctly reads the situation, and GG's out.
I don't know. He should have GG'd like 10 minutes ago, but
I mean, like as we already said, he didn't have the map awareness to know how far behind he was. Perhaps. I mean, he got scans incredibly late. But yeah,
yeah.
let's talk about that game now. So, for Zeldaran, the macro, definitely. I mean, he was still producing units. As I said before, the F would be, the dude who, I don't know, makes 5 factories and then makes tanks out of only one of them, for example. Like that would be an F. So I'm definitely gonna stick with just giving him a D minus because it was, more or less unexcusable at the level of macro that he showed there. I
I
feel
don't
like
know, but like I feel like he had 5 factories, and for the most part, they weren't used for half the game. Like,
that's
that's
true.
pretty sad. And he had 3K minerals at one point, and still making nothing. Made no SCVs. It just seems like he fell apart once his 2 fact thing failed in the beginning.
Yeah, and that seems to be the theme today. Is like if the person who feels that they're worse than the opponent, they go for something that's relatively all in, but they don't really have a follow up to it, or they're not able to play out the follow up.
Yep.
And it's been a thing that we've noticed a lot in this league overall. And at the same time, you have to be a little bit forgiving of that as well. I mean, these are still beginning players. It is kind of hard to manage your base going into the mid and late game unless you have a lot of experience. It's very easy to forget that we all sucked at one moment too. So that's probably the nicest thing I'm going to say today. Moving on
Yeah,
to.
and DNH saying like 2 fact is not all in TVT in the chat. Um, yeah, I agree. It's not all in, but the way he did it, he made it all in.
Exactly.
So it's just different.
Yeah. All in, I guess, maybe I'm using the term a little bit too liberally. It's an aggressive play that did not pan out for him, and he didn't know what to do with himself
Yep.
after it didn't pan out. In terms of
And
the
I
mic,
just want to,
go ahead.
sorry, they're talking. They're kind of talking in the chat. Is kind of trying to address it. They're also saying like 2 fact in TVP is not all in, and then DNH kind of replying saying like, oh well, you probably be behind a lot. I guess it's true, but the thing is in TVP, like you can actually 2 fact, and I've actually seen like a lot of games where 2 fact fails in TVP, and the Terran can put two command centers
Yep.
behind it.
Just because of the mines that
Turtle,
you had, the mine
yeah,
coverage, and forcing the
exactly.
Protoss to produce units and potentially delay obs for a little bit if they do catch a whiff of that 2-fact coming. Some Protosses like to add the gateway before the Robo so that they have at least 2 gateways of their own.
But here's the thing, like in that example there, and I think this is a good example. Like, see in that situation, Terran's 2 fact fails, but they've got a plan. Oh,
Hmm.
I'm going to add 2 command centers behind 20 mines.
Yep.
Okay, you've got a plan to build your economy back up, et cetera, et cetera. In these games, everything failed, but they didn't have that foresight, if you will, right?
Yeah.
So it just, I mean, you're right. It does make sense. Like these are D level players, or I guess C level. If these are C level players, and I don't even know, but this should be DPL. Honestly, like these people are so bad. Like Evil Eye seemed all right, and like few of these guys did, but like some of these people, I'm just like, how are you so bad? Like, it just
Hmm.
doesn't make sense. And I know that it's 6 months, but the game's been around for almost 20 years, right? Like, how have you not even just like read like an article on Team Liquid or like watched a couple of like VODs? Like, I feel like just common sense. Like, I know at some point, like in this game, you can cap out in skill. Like, if you cap out at like B level, okay,
Hmm.
fine, you capped out. But if you're capping out at like D or C level, like either you're actually autistic or you're just not paying attention. Like,
um, Yeah, so on that note, going to the micro for Zelda, we noticed that he ate a lot of mines because of the fact that he would be sending tanks blindly to places, not using a scan that he got very late. So it's hard to give him anything other than a D for his micro there, definitely showing a lack of awareness of how even army movement works in TVT and the dangers of sending tanks blindly to locations. Compared to Darknet Hunter, who I don't think ate a single errant mine, not that Zelda had very many of them. And that is also, I think, goes into micro as well, is not laying enough mines out on the map, out on the field, having the map awareness, which also plays into strategy. I mean, strategy, I'm willing to give him a C minus, simply because of the fact that he executed a strategy, it didn't work, and he did try to follow it up, but it just wasn't working out for him very well. Um, he again had like some concept of what he was supposed to do, and he just was not doing it very well. And the lack of map awareness also is a big hit on him. I'm actually gonna have to reverse this to D plus, I think, because the lack of map awareness is definitely a big part of strategy in my opinion.
yeah, I'm for that.
And swag, nothing to swag there. Didn't see any swag at all, frankly, and because of the fact that I guess after going two fact vulture, you have the capacity to produce a lot of vultures and use a lot of mines and try to find these openings and holes to defend, to do some damage. Maybe get a what's called a dropship earlier and use your vultures that have depleted their mines, for harassment purposes. But we really didn't see him take any initiative like that. So a C minus, because just slightly below average seems like a fair assessment for me. Now, moving to Darknet Hunter, I think that overall, I mean, you can't really complain about almost any element of his game. For his macro, I can safely give him an A. As we noted throughout the entire game, factories were pumping relatively consistently. Expansion timings were pretty solid. Maybe could have expanded to his third and his fourth slightly earlier. SCV production and count was there. SCV distribution, I looked at it a couple of times, very clean between all the bases. Nothing to complain about here. Gonna give that solid green A to him on that one. Micro, the engagement in the natural that you were impressed with also impressed me greatly. He did very good micro there. As I mentioned earlier, never really stepped on an errant mine. The way that he moved his army around and positioned it in intelligent places is both a strategic and micro achievement, in my opinion. So I'm going to give him another A for that. In terms of strategy, we noted already that his build was, pretty much optimized and a very strong response to what he saw. And the only reason I'm not going to give him an A plus for is because, like I said, he didn't expand. Because I feel like expansion timing covers both strategy and macro to some extent. So another solid A there. And in swag, we didn't really see any swag at all. There was really no need for it. He just played a very solid standard game. So giving him a C for that, I think, is a fair assessment as well.
Yeah, I mean, Swag is just like he played a solid game. Like he technically got all A's. Swag is just whatever.
Yeah,
Like
that's style.
if
What I
my
mean?
games were rated here, like I would just get C for Swag too. But
Hmm.
Swag is just like an X factor rating that you have in there. I understand.
Yeah, it's just fun, What I mean, because you have to recognize when people do something fun, something creative, harassment oriented, something like that. Like pull off a pimp, like storm or something like that. I don't know. Like there are things that can net you swag, I think, and like I like to play with a lot of swag because I just find that way of playing interesting. Like if I were to rate most of my games, I'd give my macro like a D plus, my micro like a C plus, and then my strategy maybe like a B plus, and then my swag would usually be around the B plus A minus area personally because for example, I played against Lumix, right? I did in the Have At You tour, I did proxy 2 gate in the center, and then he scouted it, so I canceled one of the gateways and I made another proxy robo in his third, and then went Reaver behind it and killed most of his SCVs. I feel like that's a kind of like a swag play. Kind of messes with his mentality. So that's just an example of what I would be looking for in terms of swag, me personally. And it is obviously just me subjectively saying this. It's just my subjective rating. This is someone asked, is like, are these IC Cup letter grades? I'm like, no, these are Jealous Cup letter grades. So,
Yeah, and also I just want to just pause for a second because there's been some chat going on,
hmm
and I think they were kind of saying like oh, Sugo's just biased to say something that, oh, these guys haven't improved after X amount of months, and why are they still bad? Like, kind of saying I have a bias. I mean,
Hmm.
it's probably true. I do have some level of bias, but the point I was trying to get across in saying all that was in playing 6 to 8 months, training hard, practicing hard with the goal of CPL in mind and having a team and bonding with your teammates, etc. Like you have resources.
Hmm.
And even still, a third to maybe a half of these guys look like they didn't even put 8 months into it. They look like they've put maybe 1 month into it.
I know,
Um,
and that's something that I want to address, and I was going to talk about that after the entire league was over. But you can't really knock the players as much because, as much as we would love to see it happen, uh, not every coach is like Darknet. I mean, as like Dragon Herb. Dragon Herb. He not going to knock him for what he does. I think he's an amazing coach, and he does a really great job. But he works at home, so he has time to commit to. He can be there online most of the time. Whereas, for example, myself, I got into grad school. I signed up for this in the fall, not expecting to have to do it during the what's called during the what's called the spring when I would be in grad school. So I barely had time to work with my team outside of maybe a couple of weekends. And like DNH is saying, like Tai too, like not gonna knock him. He's a good guy, but he's been having personal struggles with time management as well, from what I gathered, and Crispy Drone too. So a lot of people just didn't get the quality of coaching that they expected, and I think that killed a lot of people's motivation, unfortunately. And ultimately, that's all kind of a lesson too, because I think that a lot of the progress that people make in this game is from self motivation, not from being guided by what's called by the hand. You know what I'm saying?
yeah, I mean, you're right. Like these people have relied way too much on the coaches, and the coaches fine. Like coaches are just volunteering. Like no one said the coaches have to go crazy and devote X amount of hours like Dragon did. Dragon's just a unique case and kind of has no life. But the other coaches, whatever, they I guess they have lives or whatever. Who knows? But they didn't train their people as much. Okay, fine. But like you said, like the players should have been self motivated because you still signed up for the league.
Hmm.
Make it competitive. Like I feel like if you make something competitive, then you become good. And I know a lot of people, like some people, someone in the chat was like, "Oh, some people just play for fun." Yeah, it's true. I mean, I think we're all playing for fun, right? But do you do you like to just lose and get D rank ratings in the jealous framework here? Like, is that like what you guys are aiming for? Like, it's fun, sure, but like if you're gonna devote this much time to a game, then make it fun, but make it like competitive as well. I think that's my point.
Yeah, you're not
But
wrong.
self motivation is key, though. Like these people could have watched VODs. Like if you guys haven't heard of it, Corral, that Polish like thing that has all the VODs of all the pro gamers, like
Oh,
that
core
thing's
hall, yeah.
awesome. Yeah, I use that like every day. Honestly, I just like watch like one or two videos before bed or something.
Hmm.
Team Liquid, just like you post a forum, ask a question. Like honestly, people on Team Liquid will respond back to you. I don't know. Play some ladder games. Find some good people. Like some people will just like to be willing to help online. Like if you could have made the time and like had the self motivation, you could have gotten better without your coach.
That's true. And but you also, I mean, I'm not going to beleaguer this point much longer because the players, like I said, I signed up in the fall expecting to finish up by like the early spring before my life got hectic. A lot of the players were in the same situation too. I'm sure that they were ready to play in like October, and then suddenly the league doesn't start until April. It's kind of a demotivator, and people's lives change, especially over the course of like pretty much a year at this point. But enough about that. Let's go to the last game. Last game is going to be F10 EQQ against N Baker, PVZ on Circuit Breaker, and it is the deciding match. It's 2-2 going into this series, so I'm interested to see who wins. I mean, this is my team, so I got to root for F10. Let's go.
Yeah, and I think that this is cool, right? Like once again, it's 2-2. Are we going to see people just go for the cheese in an important match, or are we going to actually see them like, let me play standard, let me try to put the team on my back and let me win,
Oh,
right? So let's
Snowfruit.
see what happens.
Yeah, I had to take off the vision off Snowfruit there, but in the top left, we do have N Baker as the teal Zerg.
Yep, and at the 5, we've got F10 as the purple Protoss.
Hmm. And so F10 is also one of the, as I mentioned before, one of the top players in the league. I think he was somewhere around rank like 12 or 15 or so. He's been solid throughout the league. I think he hit C a few years ago when I played. I used to be on a team with him for a different league. So I'm expecting good things out of him. And Baker is a Zerg that's been playing since for about a year now. This is when I first became aware of him. He's been playing on Shield Battery, relatively consistent player, and he's been getting better consistently over time as well. So it's gonna be an interesting match, I think. Both players have more of a standard proclivity. They're more likely to play standard. So let's see what happens. Maybe I'm gonna be wrong.
Yeah, so it looks like F10 just going for a standard forge opening here. Let's see how he does there. Generally, it would be like a 12 forge, right? Let's see if he follows like a real build or not.
Hmm.
Um, and the Zerg looks like Overpool, I guess it looks like.
Yep.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah, one thing I want to note already from the Zerg's play is it's something that's not hard to do, but something that a lot of people fail to do. As not only is the what's called the bringing of the larva over to the other side by selecting the larva with the overlord, pressing stop, and then making the larva migrate this way, it helps your mining time when the mineral is on the left. You also should be sending each drone to an individual mineral. You don't want to be having two drones on each mineral. And I think it was like his sixth and his seventh drone that were both trying to mine from the same mineral. Like that actually hurts your build timings a lot, because at a time when you only have seven drones, for having one of them not mine for like 5 seconds, that actually has an impact on game. So something for people to be wary of in the early game. Instead of like spamming up to 300 APM, you could be more focused on, actually playing the correct way.
Yeah, and I like F10 actually. He did he had the intent of the double scout here,
Hmm.
which is good. Sometimes if a seven pool or some nonsense comes at you, double scout, you'll be able to catch it early. And I like him now with this first scout. He's denying the hatchery from being made,
Hmm.
giving the Zerg a little bit of hassle there, which is always good.
This drone actually is going to go down. That's a big pickup for, and I'm sorry, for F10 AQQ. As I mentioned earlier, I mean, at a time when you have such a low drone count, losing a drone like that is completely unforgivable. Some people like to do the extractor trick, but in general, I would say that having two drones here would be the better solution. And we are going to throw down the pylon as well to block this hatchery for just a little bit longer. Maybe force some of the links to sit back and wait here.
And I just want to say, like losing that first, like losing the drone in that's so sloppy. And it actually in the beginning game, losing like one or two drones for the Zerg is huge.
Hmm.
Like it's massive. Like that was just such bad play.
And on top of
And
that,
then on
yeah,
top of it,
go ahead.
he made four Zerglings, which like it didn't make sense. Like he never scouted the guy, so I mean I understand. Like okay, he could be doing one gate or two gate, like you don't know. So
Hmm.
okay, maybe that's why he made four Zerglings. But typically, like you should have scouted. Okay, he's going forge with the cannon. Okay, I'm only going to make two Zerglings, like
Yeah.
that sort of thing. So I don't know. It just seems like inefficient. He's already behind. He lost one drone, which was really really bad. And F10's playing just a normal standard FE. So
Yeah, definitely nothing to complain about on F10's side so far. But for N Baker, I feel like a lot of Zergs they get like really stubborn and focused at the low level of like, no, I must put this hatchery here at this natural. And he banked up to 600 minerals without putting down a second hatchery. At that point, I honestly would have just sent the drone to the third and thrown it down there. And be like, yo, fuck it, I'm just gonna throw this one there. And then whenever my natural clears up, like when I get those links out and clear up this natural, throw my third hatchery down then. And
yeah, and I just want to say like from this sort of position when you're down so much as a Zerg, it makes sense to do some like quick three hatch Hydra bust.
yep, absolutely.
Right? So as a Protoss, like if you put the Zerg, you put your opponent into this position, it like behooves you to almost play a little safer or send out like a second scout or
Hmm.
keep your scout alive longer because you should assume or like anticipate like something like that could possibly come.
Absolutely. We saw Elmaster in a recent PVZ. What he did was he sent a probe out early and he hit it at like the third base, like somewhere across the map. And when his scouting probe died inside the main base of the Zerg, which happened here to F10, he just sent the new scouting probe right immediately out. And using that, he managed to find out that he was getting like two hatch muted, I think it was, or maybe it was even one hatch muted. So it's very crucial, especially if the Zerg has decent Zergling control. I'm not saying that N Baker necessarily does, but F10 EQQ losing that probe, I know he's not Bisu, but he could have definitely kept it alive longer until at least Zergling speed has finished. So both players kind of making a mistake there. Well, not necessarily a mistake for N Baker, but it's not like he did anything great in order to prevent F10 EQQ from scouting. And F10 sent a zealot, but he's not microing it. This is exactly the opposite of what you want to be doing with these zealots.
Yeah, and then I mean he should. I don't think he's seen it yet, but now he is with the Zealot.
Hmm.
He should notice like okay, this is a four hatch opening. What is four hatch? Like he should think now. What is four hatch? Like what can the Zerg opponent do up four hatch? Usually they would slap down a den and like do some nonsense like Hydra stuff there. But
Yeah.
I don't know. And now I mean he just lost like three more drones to like one zealot because he wasn't even paying attention. So he has
Yeah.
like no map activity, not understanding what's going on. I mean he's just like really behind. And this guy F10 is just he's playing a normal standard game. He's getting +1 air right now. He's gonna have some Corsairs out soon. Um,
It
yeah,
looks like he's going for a speedy zealot timing. Actually, he threw down the second gateway in the natural. No time, and the Citadel of Adune's coming up. I'm gonna guess that he's gonna go for something zealot heavy in the early game. Sometimes I think that usually you're not supposed to throw down your second gateway until you start the Templar archives normally, right?
yeah. Sorry, what was that question?
You usually start throwing down your additional gateways when you start your Templar archives.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's right.
so I'm gonna assume that this could be a slightly more aggressive build out coming out of F10 EQQ here.
Yeah, you usually would add your gateways, like additional gateways and things like that, when you move out to attack with your zealot, something like that. It depends, but yeah.
Yeah, he already did send out his first two zealots, and he did lose them. I mean, he did do some damage with it. He's getting the scout off now on and Baker. He should note that there is the second gas is only now on the way. The fact that there are Hydras out and that the layer is up, so although it's most likely not going to be a Hydra bust at this point, it's not completely out of the question if he plays like an idiot and then, like, I don't know, loses all his Templar or something like that. It's still possible, but at least he knows that there's not going to be any Spire, which means that he doesn't necessarily have to commit as hard to Sarah if he is feeling kind of scared.
Yeah, and you know what? I think against like a five hatch play, which is what this is. Continuing to make Corsairs is actually not bad.
Yeah.
Because it keeps the Hydralisks at the base a little bit longer while you kill some Overlords, so it actually gives you some more time.
No.
You don't really need the +1 air,
Yeah.
honestly, but I guess he didn't know, but I think it's good to keep Sarah production up a little bit just to kill some Overlords.
Oh no, I'm not saying that it's a bad thing to do. I'm saying that it's just not absolutely necessary if you are feeling like you're being pressured. Like if you think that you're not going to be able to hold a Hydra bust right now, you need to buy some time. You don't need more than the first few Sares. You can use that money instead of continuing Sare production. You can try to rush your Templar archives and what's called your Templar tech. You could throw down extra cannons instead of making Sare. Like
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah,
I think verse 5 hatch, I would just get Storm right away.
Exactly, because that is what you're going to be using the majority of. I mean, we still don't see a Spire out of N Baker, but N Baker is taking the fourth base, and this might be a dangerous move for him. I mean, the Zealots are moving out, and N Baker's macro has not really been on point. We see a lot of eggs out on the map. He must have banked a lot of money because he threw down two hatcheries back to back like this, but he does have a decent Hydra count, honestly. I mean, it's still a possibility that he could do some damage with this, or at the very least defend this without losing too much.
And it looks like F10's going for his little +1 attack here with the Zealots. And Baker has a decent Hydra count now, I suppose. The Zealots did actually nothing at all.
Yeah.
He got, like, sunken in, like, a couple drones, it looks like. But on the flip side, F10's getting ready for a Dark Templar drop.
Yeah.
So I don't know how this is going to play out because it looks like N Baker actually has Overlord speed now, and he's only got 2 cannons at home, and his Storm, I don't even know if he started it yet.
Yeah, I don't think so. I didn't catch it at any point in time earlier when I was talking about Templar tech. I didn't see it. So this is actually an incredibly risky position for him, even without the Overlord there. He's not going to be able to hold this with just this one Templar. Oh, he actually canceled the extra Dark Templar that was coming out, or maybe he just loaded it up. So this bust is actually going to be enormous. It's going to completely mess him up. The Templar just coming out now, gets sniped right away. This is actually really brutal for him right now.
Yeah, this isn't looking too good. And this goes back to what you were saying, like, instead of getting all those Corsairs and getting +1 air and this and that, like, you got to get the Storm.
Yeah, absolutely. And the DT drop, while a good idea, I don't think he did it way too early. Like there was no need to do it this early, especially before before knowing exactly when Zerg is going to do what. Like he should have known that. It's like, oh, I'm not going to be able to hold a Hydra bust. Yeah, especially after losing like 12 zealots, this is almost a natural conclusion for Zerg. It's like, oh, I just killed all his zealots. Time to go see what he's up to. Time to see if I can poke around a little bit. So definitely a big misread from F10 EQQ here, but the drop is doing damage at home. If he can stabilize somehow on the gate with these Dark Templar, but no, there's Overlords here now with speed. Great idea. I mean, great play from N Baker to bring them over with him this time.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, this Dark Templar can still do a lot of damage here. I mean, it actually is doing a lot of damage.
Yeah, but at the same time, I mean, the situation in his main base is so incredibly dire right now. Even if he does kill all the drones that N Baker has, you can't win
Yeah.
without a base. And with
And you
the
know what he actually needed to do is he needed to bring his Corsairs back home, kill the Overlords that were there at his main, and then get the Dark Templars, and he could have probably saved himself very easily.
absolutely, and to do that, he's looks like he was doing that now. But the Dark Temple, oh my God, he's banked up 2,000 minerals behind this. Like, how is that possible? He could have thrown down like 10 cannons at the top of his ramp while trying to hold this. Straight up, like that's what I would do if I'm like, oh shit, well I'm losing my natural. Might as well try to hold them off as long as possible and throw down like 10 cannons and see how much damage I could do with these Dark Templar. But no, he's gonna get I think he just got so flustered. I mean, he's completely wrecked now. He has no chance of coming back at all.
Funny thing is, though, the Zerg only has like 8 drones himself.
Yeah, but he's also in a position now where I don't think it's possible for him to even lose. I mean, like, if you look at the
Yeah.
one base that he does have drones at, like, there's Hydras there. Even without an Overlord there, he's not going to be able to do that much more damage. Whereas F10 is just, if he loses both these Nexuses, it's straight up over. Eventually, the Zerg will have to stabilize.
Yeah, and it looks like it's probably game now. So
Yeah, the Overlord showed up, the last DT is dead, and now F10, I mean, he must have been over-investing in his DT micro. That's why he got to such a ridiculous bank. And
yeah, I mean, he played it wrong in the sense that like he just sacrificed all those zealots in his +1 attack that he was making. He lost all of them. Um, you can't just do that. I think you need to. I think it's better to just like use them and like run around a little bit and kind of like have the Zerg like go back to the base and like kind of do a little bit of like that the zealot shenanigans and sort of buy yourself time, especially since he knew he didn't have Storm. Like if he did that, saved his zealots, got like 3-4 more cannons, and just waited for the Storm, he would have still been ahead because
massively.
yeah, because he still got so many drones in the early game and whatnot. So I think he just didn't play it right. I think he just didn't have the game sense for that. And he wasted those zealots, and ultimately that's kind of it. Just trickled down, and that's why he lost.
Yeah, Magical Ponies, I mean, they took that game now. I mean, that puts them up 3-2, and now my team is knocked out of the league. This was the first round of playoffs, and my team placed second throughout the course of the league, and we were actually very close to first place overall. So this is a major upset in my opinion, and congratulations to Magical Ponies for making it one more week. We are gonna see. Let's do the grades before we get any further. I mean, congratulations can come afterwards for F10 EQQ. The macro. I mean, it was good until it was bad, and it was bad exactly when it wasn't allowed to be bad, which is when he was getting fucked by Hydralisks. So, frankly, I can't give him a grade better than like a C plus. Like, if your macro is only good when there's nothing disturbing your macro, then your macro is just not good. It's
Yeah,
better. It's
agreed.
definitely better than Zeldaran's, definitely better than Lock Tears, but it still wasn't, something that I would expect out of a player who's his caliber, which is a C plus level player. And in terms of micro, the flub with the zealots. I mean, early on, the first two zealots were microed okay-ish. It was mostly N Baker's failing at handling it than any actual uh, points that I could give to F10 EQQ, but it wasn't terrible. It was the mistake that he made later by throwing away all those zealots, focusing on a sunken colony and doing practically no damage, and that's what really ultimately led to his demise. So I can't give him more than a C minus for micro there. He did do a decent amount of damage with the DT drop. Did split him up nicely. Did kill most of the drones, but yeah, C minus is probably as far as I can go with that. In terms of strategy, I like the build order that he chose. I think he got the right amount of units and did the right things up until he made that conceptual error of throwing away all the zealots and stuff. So again, I have to commend him for doing something that makes sense, a build that makes sense, and getting it to the point where it should be, but then completely mismanaging the build. And on top of that, going for that DT drop, as I said, so incredibly early when he was so vulnerable at the front with no Templar and no Storm, shows a real lack of understanding of like what his position in the game was, which I think nets him again. Nothing greater than a C minus in my opinion. Now, in terms of swag, I'm this is exactly the kind of build that I would call a swag build. If it had worked out, if he had been a little bit more patient with the Dark Templar drop, I think it would have like it would have looked really pimp. Like he would have looked like he has everything going for him. He had it all figured out. Unfortunately, just the execution wasn't there, and like I said, just not being safe about it. So I'll give him a B for swag. It was a good attempt, but no cigar. Now, as far as N Baker goes, I would say that his macro definitely is very lacking. We saw a lot of idle drones, not idle drones, idle larva throughout the game, and clearly banking a lot of money, like getting that 600 minerals for second hatch. So a lot of work to be done there, but at the end of the day, he did make a lot of Hydralisks, and Zerg has that luxury of being able to just control click like 8 or 9 larva and make like 9 Hydralisks for all the, pardon me, macro that he missed. But so ultimately, I'll give him a C minus for macro. Like just barely above a D level because he did make enough of the necessary units to just win the game. In terms of micro, definitely a lot of early failings that we saw in terms of micro against those zealots, but in the end he did clean them up. And the micro and the natural, I feel like he could have tried to force his way up the ramp quicker. If I was in his position, I'd be worried about Protoss being able to hold at the ramp using Dark Templar and cannons, which was a possibility until F10 EQQ dropped the ball on that. So definitely could have made some bit better decisions all around and better control, but ultimately it was like a pretty much a free win for him at that point. So I can't give him too much credit either. So I'm give him a C minus for micro. Strategy, he did a simulation, like his own version of a very popular and common build. He definitely messed up early on about it with the 600 mineral, um, was called his 600 mineral hatchery, and the fact that he had to throw down like another 2 hatcheries at the same time later on, like going up to what was it, 7 hatch Hydra, which isn't really a thing. It's like he was freestyling after that point. His strategy seemed to be just like, I'm gonna make Hydras and then I'm gonna shove them down your throat, which is it works sometimes, but it doesn't show any inspiration, and he didn't perform it as to the level I would have liked to see. So I'm gonna give him a C minus for that as well. Now, in terms of swag, absolutely no swag to be had there. He was just on the receiving end of swag. He didn't do anything, as I said, that's not standard. He was just freestyling it, his approximation of standard. So just an even C for that will do. And yeah, so that wraps it up for us. I do have to give congratulations to Magical Ponies, to Ty 2. Big props to all the winners today: Elmaster, Evil Eye, Jordaddy, Darknet Hunter, and Baker. Those people, I mean, you guys deserve all the accolades. You guys won. Real quick, I do want to give a rating for that game. I would give that game. I mean, it ended so disappointingly. I mean, I can't. I'm thinking like 1.5 or 2 stars, but I'm gonna have to go with 2 stars here. So yeah, so going into here, yeah, yeah. So what's next? I mean, yeah, I was saying congratulations to Magical Ponies and to Tai 2. You guys pulled off the upset and the comeback. Technically speaking, going down 2 and then coming back with 3. And I think that about wraps it up for me. I'm going to introduce next week's match. Where is it? Yep, Magical Ponies